All right, put on your detective hats because today we're opening up a case file. We're diving deep into one of the most frustrating mysteries in the business world, the price that just vanishes, right when you need it most. This is high stakes stuff, so let's get right to it.
So picture this. You've got a multi-million dollar order right there on your screen. This is a huge deal for the company. But you look at the price field, and there's just nothing, a blank space. The whole process grinds to a halt. It's a full-blown crisis. So where do you even begin to look for clues?
Well, the first rule of any investigation is to assess the crime scene. And in our world, that means understanding the type of failure we're looking at. Because here's the thing, no matter how chaotic it seems, every pricing error leaves a trail. It leaves clues, and they almost always fall into one of three distinct categories.
Okay, so these are our three main MOs. First, you've got the total blackout. This is the most dramatic one. The whole pricing tab, the whole system is just dark, gone. Then there's partial failure, which is a little more subtle. The system is running, but key evidence, like the base price, is missing in action. And finally, the sneakiest of them all, the value failure. You see a number, but it's zero or it's just plain wrong. And that one can be even more dangerous.
So let's tackle the biggest, most obvious case first, the total blackout. When the entire pricing system fails to even show up, it almost always points to a fundamental flaw in the system's blueprint. You know, the core set of instructions it needs just to find its way. Think of the system like a GPS. Before it can give you directions, it needs to know exactly where it's going. To do that, it needs 4 key coordinates to pinpoint the right pricing map or procedure for any given sale. And here's the kicker. It's not looking for just one of them. It needs a perfect match on all 4. If even one of those coordinates is off by just a little bit, the GPS gets lost and just shuts down. And this right here, this is the rule book. These are those 4 coordinates. The system looks at the sales area, so the organization, the channel, the division. It looks at the type of sales order. It looks at the specific customer profile. And only, I mean only, if it finds a rule in its master table that matches all 3 of these things perfectly, only then does it find its map. A mismatch here is suspect number 1 in every total blackout case. Now, you want to know something funny? It's incredibly easy to fall for a really common mistake here. Something that trips up even the pros. We call it the division trap. And it all has to do with that very first coordinate, the sales area. Here it is in action. Look on the left, the sales order is for a product that clearly belongs to Division 99. But on the right, the system's blueprint, its core setup, was configured to look for a generic Division 00. The system sees that tiny mismatch, that one digit, and it can't find a matching rule in its GPS. And boom, total blackout. It's a classic case of mistaken identity.
Okay, so what happens if the blueprint is perfect, but prices are still missing? Well, this leads us to our next stage of the investigation. We need to follow the paper trail. We have to look at the day-to-day data that actually flows through the system. And you have to let this sink in. 60%. Over half of all pricing problems aren't some deep, complex bug buried in the software's code. Nope, it's a simple error in the data somebody entered. That's why the best detectives always check the simple clues first. It's just the fastest way to close the case.
You know, one of the most common culprits is something I like to call the silent killer, the date mismatch. The price you're looking for, it might be perfectly set up in the system, but it's only valid starting tomorrow. So the system looks at today's date on the order, sees nothing valid for today, and reports back that the price is missing. It really is that simple sometimes.
Another classic is just missing clues. I mean, imagine the system is supposed to look up a price based on, say, the material pricing group. If somebody creating the product record left that field blank, well, the system has no lead to follow. The investigation is over before it even starts. It's a dead end.
All right, so let's say the blueprint is solid and the obvious data clues aren't panning out. It's time to take this investigation to the next level. We need to go inside the system's own forensics lab, the pricing analysis tool. And when you're in there, you'll probably come across some really cryptic messages, like this one. Access not made, initialized field. To most people, this is just meaningless jargon. But to a detective, this is a crucial piece of forensic evidence. This is a major clue. So what is that cryptic message really telling you? It's basically the system's confession. It's saying, look, I was told to find a price using a specific key, let's say price group. But when I went to the evidence file for this product, the price group key was missing. The field was blank, so I couldn't even try to look for the price. And wouldn't you know it, the solution to this technical-sounding clue almost always points you right back to that paper trail. The message is literally a road sign telling you, go check the master data for the customer or the material. That missing key is right there, just waiting for someone to fill it in. It all comes back to that 60% rule, doesn't it? So we've checked the blueprint, we've followed the paper trail, and we've been to the forensics lab. Now let's pull it all together. Let's create the 5-step protocol that expert detectives use to crack these cases quickly, every single time.
This is the playbook. It's a methodical process of elimination. First things first, you do a quick visual scan. Is the whole pricing tab missing? If yes, you know it's a total blackout, a blueprint problem. Then you hit the analysis button. Go to the forensics lab. Step 3 is a simple update test, which catches any data that was fixed after the order was created. Only then do you manually audit the data yourself. And notice what's last on the list. Technical debugging. Digging into the code is the absolute last resort, not your first move. And of course, no detective gets very far without their toolkit. These are the essentials. OVKK, that's your master map room. The analysis button is your magnifying glass for getting up close on the clues. VK13 is the central evidence locker where all the prizes are kept. And the master data transactions, that's where you go to interview your witnesses and check if their stories, their data, add up.
In the end, a missing price seems like such a simple, frustrating glitch. But as we've just seen, figuring out why it's missing forces you to understand the entire hidden logic of the system. Its absence isn't a bug. It's really a symptom. It's a clue that reveals the complex, interconnected rules of commerce happening under the surface. And it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other simple problems out there are really just a test of how systematically we can think?